So, you found your way back down my dark alley again, did you? Well, as long as you're here, why not pull up a stool and sit a spell? I've been doing some thinking lately, and I'm in a bit of a sharing mood. The thing I've noticed is that ego tends to come with the territory when we're talking about adventurers. Who can swing the biggest sword, cast the most spells, rack up the biggest body count? You get the idea. The problem is, being overly concerned with stat measuring and who can beat up who is kind of like missing the forest for the trees. And if everyone in your party is focused on their personal glory, then you're looking at a TPK that's just waiting to happen. Back when I still wore a captain's bars, part of my job was to assemble strike teams, which is a fancy way of saying the powers that be would task me with accomplishing a particular mission, and I had to find 5 unlucky bastards to do the job. Now, I had a couple of go-to groups for this. The thing I stressed during briefings, though, was that different team members would have more or less to do depending on the goal. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. You see, when I needed a crew to handle a hostage extraction, I gave it to the Blackhearts. Every member of that team was qualified in their own way, but the one who took point on that mission was Nick Shadow. Because while he wasn't the group's muscle, magic, or face man, what he did best was find ways into and out of impossible places. You compare that with the job they'd done before that. Walking Dead were plaguing the Southmire, and they had to be stopgapped before they spread. Hestia Varus was the team lead on that mission, not because she was better than anybody else, but because her time at the tower had taught her more about the undead than she could ever impart to her team. What does all that mean? Well, 2 things. First is there's no such thing as an all-around best adventurer. Everyone's got a skill set that shines in some situations and goes dark in others. Second, you need to know what your goals and victory conditions are. Because if we'd put Burn Ironside in charge of that first mission, he would have killed every enemy combatant in the entire Red River Basin. But that wasn't the mission's goal. We wanted the hostages back safe, and for that the skills of a skulker were more valuable than even the strongest sword arm. I've been in my share of scrapes, and there's one thing I can tell you for certain. The winning side is the one that's bigger than the sum of its parts. Give you an example. You kick open the door and you find yourself face to face with a seriously big ugly. As individuals, your hitter wants to charge it, your blaster wants to drop a fireball, your skulker wants to try getting into a flank, and no one is communicating with anyone else. Which is how your muscle and your stealth get blown up, leaving the bard and the sorcerer undefended when the big nasty, who is immune to fire, decides to eat them. You need to get in the habit of thinking tactically. Don't just ask, how do I rack up my body count? Instead ask, what's my job? Because everybody wants to win the fight, but you might do a lot more good acting as a one-man shield wall at a choke point, giving your teammate the chance to shoot over your shoulder, than you would do bellowing Leroy Jenkins and rushing straight into the danger zone. You ever notice how much crap people give bards for being useless or subpar? Because sure, a fife isn't the most intimidating weapon you can bring to a fight, but when all is said and done, you might be surprised at how much of the group's success was due to the music maker's timely assistance. This same theory applies to wizards who rearrange the battlefield to their team's advantage, or to clerics who boost their allies' prowess or defenses. Because while wiping out an enemy force with a wave of your hand might be impressive, you'll often get better, less costly results by giving your allies a boost instead. You don't need magic for this to apply to you either. If you can get into a flank, trip a foe to set them up for your teammate, or just aid that ally, you can be a great use of your action. Because as long as your team wins, does it really matter who dealt the death blow? Especially if you know that blow would never have landed without your help. That's pretty much all I have to say on the subject, really. Just remember, before you hit the trail, a party who slays together stays together. If you agree, then like the video and share it with your friends. Follow the page while you're at it. And if you want to help us make more content just like this, stop by our Patreon or buy us a coffee. See you next time you're looking for something risky.